Hello, welcome to the Mark on Marketing Live Show. I'm your host, Mark Weisenburger, two-time best-selling author and a disruptive marketer. Today we have a special guest. I am so excited to have our guest on today. And let's just kick this off and get started and read the bio. Prima Guerrieri is committed to creating a world where everyone is empowered to live on purpose in a way that is aligned with their divine gifts and their birthright of their true prosperity. Prima is a leading Vedic astrologer, business consultant, energy practitioner, and spiritual coach with more than 25 years of experience, and the author of the Sacred Wealth Code, Unlock Your Soul Blueprint for Purpose and Prosperity. She empowers leaders, entrepreneurs, visionaries, and change agents to take inspired action and unlock their sacred wealth code, using her intuitive approach to business building and her patented technology. Prima's clients manifest wealth and create meaningful lives by doing what they are meant to do. Please help me welcome our guest, Prima. Prima, can you hear me?
I can hear you. It's so great to be here with you, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. I appreciate you coming on here. I know you just wrapped up an interview and you have an interview right after this. And so if I get long-winded and we need to shut up, just tell me to shut up, okay?
I'm sure it's going to be perfect today.
Because you didn't really tell me what time the other interview starts, so we'll just go. So 30 to 40 minutes is usually what we take. Is that good for you?
Yeah, it's great. Thank you.
Okay, Prima. Would you just share a little bit more information about yourself, something that's not in the bio and something that we probably won't discuss in the questions, and just so our audience can get to know you a little better on a personal level?
Yeah, so I have always been on a journey, as far as I can remember, to living a soul-sourced life. And when I was younger, that showed it up as being very intuitive. I didn't know that at the time, but I know that now. And but I learned to follow my inner guidance from a very early age. And by doing that, that's what led me to all the work that I've done in the world. And I've been an entrepreneur for over 25 years and been in personal self-development and business development and spiritual development for all those years. And I really have to just accredit it to me tuning in and learning how to follow my own soul from a very early age. And that's exactly what I have set out to do in writing your Sacred Wealth Code. It's a process I've done with people and clients for many years now, but I got that tap on the shoulder to write a book and make it more available to more people. And so that's why I did write the book, which is also a playbook. It's a guide. It's a self-discovery, but with a lot of really practical action. Because my gifts are on 4 different levels, and it's good to know that. We'll probably talk about that in the interview, but I also want to inspire you to understand your gifts and what they're really good for, because I really believe whatever it is that you've come to give the world also wants from you.
Perfect. And appreciate you sharing that with us. And we'll just jump right in. I am so excited. I skimmed over your book over the weekend for today's interview, but obviously, as you said, it's a planner, it's a playbook, it's an action guide, it's a lot of things. And so I'm excited to go back and really dig deep and see the content that is in there on a deeper level, because obviously this is something I have been searching for my whole life, I do believe. So, but first of all, why don't you just share with us, what is the Sacred Wealth Code?
Yeah, you will unpack that over our time together, but let me give you the entry point. So your Sacred Wealth Code is where your purpose, your internal soul blueprint is wired up for purpose, where that intersects with prosperity. I want you to think of, there's an intersection within yourself, that literally an intersection, and it's where purpose and prosperity intersect and come together. And when you learn what it takes to live at that intersection, which we'll be talking about, what happens is that you start to create the kind of wealth that really is true for you, because wealth isn't the same for everyone. Wealth doesn't mean just money. Wealth, in my terms, means everything you need to fulfill your purpose. So yes, that's money because it's a common currency of exchange, but it also is the resources you need, the nourishment you need, maybe the relationships you need, whatever you need to fulfill your purpose. So your sacred wealth code is this internal intersection. And at that intersection, and what keeps us there and is really what I call your greatest gifts and talents, or your divine gifts, the things that you're so brilliant at that you may or may not know, you may not be aware of, you may not use, or you may. But when you do learn what that is, and you do learn how to use them like your most amazing superpowers right in the work you're doing or the work you want to be doing, it's just where magic happens. It's where you start to see that, wow, I have that feeling I'm on purpose, but also I'm creating the kind of wealth that is meaningful for me personally.
That's awesome. Yeah, for me, and maybe I didn't understand the explanation, but for me, wealth is obviously to have enough money to take care of myself, my family, and to do some fun things, but primarily so I have the time and freedom to enjoy my grandchildren. I spent my younger life when I had my 4 children at home, working, trying to pursue the almighty dollar, and that was my big goal. And I'm not going to make that mistake a second time. So,
my father says that about my kids, who are all now in their 20s, and he still spends a good amount of time with them. He said, he was a good dad. He said, but I missed out on part of it, and I'm not going to miss out the second time. And he didn't. But what you said that's so important is, like, if we take the money equation out of wealth, and trust me on this, if we take it out, it doesn't mean we're not going to have it there. It'll allow us to have more of that. But if we don't make wealth about money, we get down to, it's actually the first pillar of your sacred wealth code. And I'll just interject it here because you brought it up basically. It's like, why do you want that wealth? So number one, you need to know what your, I call it your wealth stream. Like, what do you even want to create wealth for? What does a wealthy life look like to you? And I take you through a process in the book about that. But everyone just think about that right now. Like, if you're living your wealthiest day, like, what does it look like? What are you doing? Who are you with? How are you spending your time? What are you wearing? What are you eating? What are you thinking about? So what is wealth to you? And like Mark said, so digging deeper, to spend the time, have the freedom to spend the time with your grandkids. Like, why is that so important to you? Why is that wealth so important to you? So when you know the why, you know the purpose for the wealth. And I call that the vehicle that gets you to that intersection of purpose and prosperity. When you know that if you write this equation down, it'll be really useful for you. Why on one side, purpose on the other, put an equal sign in between. Why equals purpose, no matter what you're doing. Know the purpose of it. So know the purpose of why you're creating wealth. Because when you know that, you can orient your life in alignment with that purpose right away. Like, there's ways that, Mark, you could create more freedom, like the feeling of freedom. Like every time even you're with your grandkids, you could be like, this is what it's all about. Just even that energy opens you up to creating more of that. Not magically, like you'll have, sort of magically, but you'll have inspirations. You'll make connections, because that's the purpose of the wealth for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I have to confess that 2 of my grandchildren stayed over last night, and they had to sleep with Grandma and Grandpa. And the little boy is 3 years old, and the little guy would not let me get up this morning because I just had to sit there and cuddle him, and which was awesome. I just said, life doesn't get any better than this.
I mean, in the end, what is it that we really want? It's like moments like that, right?
So let's move on. And how might someone's wealth code show up in his or her daily life?
So it's going to show up in those, we're going to have to actually backtrack and unpack that a little bit. But so I want to actually circle back to that question, Mark, because if we talk about a little bit more about what the wealth code is and how we find it and how to use it, then it's going to be a little easier for us to talk about how it shows up. I'm going to give one little thing about this, though. When you just feel like you're lit up and things are clicking for you, and when you feel like like when you fall into bed and you feel like you're well used, like maybe you were on the edge a little bit, you did something you were a little afraid of, but it's like that was your thing to do. Those meaningful moments, those are some of how your wealth code shows up, the opportunity that comes in that you weren't expecting. Those are some of the ways, but we'll get back into that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and and I had a thought and it just passed right through my head. So don't you love live? So we're just going to plow forward and move right in. So what are the 3 things everyone should know about their sacred wealth code?
What are the 3 things that everyone should know about their sacred wealth code? Number 1 is that you have one. Everyone has one. Okay. So that's number 1. Number 2 is that your sacred wealth code is unique to you, and no one has the same sacred wealth code. And it is something that you can have and it can lay dormant unless you decide to use it. Either just naturally you use it. You'll see children naturally use their wealth code. They're naturally in their highest value gifts and talents. They're exploring the world and finding out what they're good at, where they're, what lights them up. So you have one, but you actually have to get in and drive it and actually use it. And the third thing is when you actually do use your sacred wealth code, when you understand what it is for you personally, and in my system and in my book, I have described it in the language of archetypes because it's a soul language. And in that we can pack a lot of information that I don't have to just give to your brain. You can actually, it's information that comes to you on a lot of levels and it's your own interpretation. So for instance, if I say to you the archetype of the teacher or the leader or of an advocate, these are archetypes that are unique in their descriptions to my sacred wealth code system because they will speak from the language of purpose and prosperity and help you to understand your gifts. But just me saying like a leader, like each and every one of you has your own definition of what that is. Without me having to describe all of it. We all know what we're talking about, but you understand in your own terminology, in your own interpretation. And that's really, really important because a leader is unique in the ways it is to you. So again, you have one, you have to learn how to drive it. And it's inherent within you, and it just takes a self-discovery process to find out what it is. And what it is only one of the steps, but then you have to know what it holds for you. And I say it holds your superpowers. It helps you to understand, like, even as a leader, what are your unique gifts? Is it problem solving? Is it being able to teach people to lead themselves? Is it your visionary, your big vision that you could hold for people? What is your unique talents? And so then you can insert yourself into those talents and use those gifts and talents in what you're doing.
Okay, great. And I just had a thought as you were talking and sharing that information. You shared children, they're out exploring, they're finding themselves, they're finding what they're good at. So as parents, and I'm pointing the finger right at me, is there, as parents, can we or do we like squash our children's wealth code because we say, no, you don't do that, and you should become a doctor and not the fireman or whatever the case may be?
Yeah, in fact, I always say, you should just start donating into your child's counseling fund when you start having them because they're going to need some help to get over you, I have 2 kids, and I also have 2 stepchildren, and all of them are in their 20s now. And so I get this, okay? Yes, if you really let them gravitate towards the things they want to explore, like for instance, both my daughter and my son are both very artistic, and I always, gave them good supplies to paint with and draw with and play and all those sorts of things. I let them have lots of time outdoors. I noticed that they really, when I look back, they really gravitated towards where their skills are. My son's a mechanical engineer and an inventor type. In fact, he's starting a bike company right now, and he also has a mechanical engineering job for a company. My daughter's a total art head, but she's works at one of the top 5 salons in Seattle and has done incredibly well for herself at 25 years old. She figured out it's art on the human body. She wanted to create, and she's not done. She's also teaching in that salon. And now she's looking at what's the next level for herself. I made plenty of mistakes, but the thing that is really useful is when you see them go for something, like just give them what they need to develop themselves within that, whether they stay with it or not. And if you have that intuition and that hit, like, oh, I can see you actually have a talent for that. And maybe they've got some fear around it. It could be a soul choice, or who knows why they have that fear. Then just don't pressure them, but see how you can make it safe enough to actually explore that talent within themselves.
That's awesome. Yeah, my second son, he used to light matches in the house all the time. And I didn't think that was very safe. So I said, no more of that. When he became an adult, he told me that after that, he climbed out onto the roof of the house. But obviously a fire is, what he loves. And so we asked him, said, well, why don't you become a firefighter or, fight the forest fires? And he just looked and said, I start fires. I don't put them out. So he knows what that is. He just is not sure how to fulfill that yet.
Well, but, and that can be interpreted a lot of different ways. For instance, like if we made sure that we are doing campfires with him and things like an appropriate place for a fire. Maybe he lights the candle every night, or whatever it might be. So he's got an appropriate place to help, start the fire. But, that interpretation, maybe he's going to be, maybe to help ignite that fire, like that passion within other people. Fire is very representational of igniting that flame, igniting that passion. So, that's just one interpretation. We'd have to go into some deeper questioning, but
right.
It's worth exploring.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thanks. A person's sacred wealth code is made up of 4 pillars, and that sacred wealth archetype, is that how you say it?
Archetype.
Explain what those 4 pillars are.
Yeah. So the 4 pillars of your sacred wealth code, we talked about the first one a little bit. So step 1 is your wealth dream. Like, what is it like to live a wealthy life for you? What do you imagine that to be? And then the first pillar is the why equals purpose. So why is that important to you? Like for me, when I dig down into the why of why wealth is important to me, it's because it gives me a certain level of freedom and it gives me a level of peace. I can do what I want. I can support my family the way I want to. I can create my business the way I want to. There's some people, I can give my services away. I can charge a lot of money I can do whatever. It gives me freedom. It gives me freedom. I can travel. I can buy. I don't look at the price tag. I love to live very pristinely and I'm very health conscious. I buy really good food. I get to do that. If there's someone I want to give money to because I want them to have that and they don't have it, I get to, So that's that freedom. What is it for you? That's what the first pillar takes you through in the sacred wealth code system, is really understanding. And the thing about your why, the purpose for your wealth, that's the vehicle that gets you to that intersection of purpose and prosperity. If you don't know why, you're just going to kind of keep circling the block, but you'll never end up at that intersection. And then the second pillar of wealth is passion. And the way I explain it is it's the essence of fulfillment. We didn't talk about this, but it's important to weave this in. When we think about wealth, and instead of thinking about money, underneath, whether it's freedom or peace or security or whatever it is for you, that why, there's a sense of, with real true wealth, fulfillment, the essence of fulfillment. And that's what makes wealth, to me, very different than money. Wealth is actually, we feel fulfilled when we feel wealthy. So passion, being the essence of fulfillment, we could say, hey, follow your passion. That's really great. But then again, it's very ambiguous for some people. So in this pillar of wealth, I help you through deep questioning and some processes to understand what ignites, speaking of fire, what ignites that fire, what ignites that passion within you personally. And it does not have to be connected to your greatest gifts. So you might like skydiving, or you might like, going to the ballet, or like for me, I love to dance and do yoga. I love to be outside. So I like to sleep outside. I hike to the beach every day. I love to go hiking. So whatever lights your passion up, that's the fuel for your why. It's the fuel for that purpose for wealth. So I teach my people, my clients, to be engaged in that on a daily basis. We find how to insert passion into the life, because when you are in your zone of passion, whether it's connected to your work in the world or not, you're connected to your soul. And during that time, it feeds you, it fuels you. So you have enough fuel to follow that why to that zone of wealth. It gives you that joy to be. You need to have that. And also during those times of being connected to your passion, you get great inspirations. And sometimes you're doing something completely unrelated that's so fun for you than your work or your business, and boom, the next idea that you really needed dropped in, or you problem solve something because you're open and connected to your soul and your gifts. So the third pillar is your greatest gifts. Now, your greatest gifts, your Sacred Wealth Code archetypes are going to give you a lot of information about your gifts, but I do walk you through a process in the book to help you to understand at least what a couple of your greatest gifts are. Now, this isn't what you're good at. This is what you're spectacular at, what you're brilliant at. So, like, for instance, about 10 years ago, I had a yoga and healing arts center. I talk about this in my book, but just briefly. This was a beautiful world-class center on an island right off of Seattle, Washington. And I had a couple of studios, I had practitioner rooms, I had healers, I was training teachers, I was doing my intuitive work, I was starting to get into the astrology at that point, and I was working a lot. Now, I was running that business on my own, and that was a six-figure in sales business, but not a lot of that was coming to me directly. And I was trying to figure out, like, where am I off? Because I feel like I'm really on my purpose. And so I want any of you listening in to, like, if you feel like, hey, I'm on my purpose, but the money's not flowing, this might be happening to you too. Well, I was doing all the administration, all the facilitation, and I'm good with business, and I even teach about business now from an intuitive standpoint. But I needed to have a team, and I have a great administrator. In fact, it's in the wealth code system, but it's not part of my wealth code. I just have a strong one, and it was doing too much of the work. So therefore, it was wearing me down, sucking a little bit of the life out of me to be able to fully step into my gifts. And so the center, really, I was like, I sell it? I'm about 5 years in. My landlord won't let me out of the lease. Do I get a partner? I tried everything. We even tried to turn it into a nonprofit. But I was really faced with, wow, like, I don't know what to do. So one of my clients came to, I was going to have to close the center, but I still had part of my lease to live out. And one of my clients said to me, well, you need to ask your community for help. And I thought, I don't really want to do that. And I felt very exposed in that. And they didn't know the challenging time that I was really having. And in fact, my marriage had just dissolved during this time as well. So she helped me craft a letter to my community. And they sent cards and letters that are just so beautiful, thanking me for giving them the opportunity to help me. And like anywhere from, like $5 or $10 to $1,000. And we had like $10,000 within a week's time, which was enough to float me along a little ways. And then I found a solution to be able to close the center. But what I learned in that was I thought I knew how to receive, but I didn't know how to receive. And that was one of the things that really held me back from really fully being in my wealth code. So I got that lesson. And so I closed the center and I went into private practice, and I was like in the dark night of my soul, like, I've tried everything. So I dove in and I did the spiritual work I needed to do, and I figured this out. I was just bound and determined to figure out what was in alignment. And the beautiful thing is that the Sacred Wealth Code came through that dark night of the soul for me. So anyone in a big challenge, which we'll talk about next, understand there's something in that for you, just like you can look back at your life and find the blessing in a challenge that you've gone through already. There's something in it for you. And so even if you don't know what it is, if you can just embrace that challenge, which is really the fourth pillar of the Sacred Wealth Code, and understand that, okay, I know something's in this for me. Let me just dive into it. Let me find out what it is or get the help to find out, because that challenge allowed me to understand. I dove into the astrology to really understand this purpose and prosperity, which is actually in the Vedic astrology chart, and let the system come through me so that I could give it to other people. And within a few months, I went into private practice. I quadrupled my rates. I turned my whole business around. I went partially online. And now I have a virtual business, and it's been nothing but success since then. But it wouldn't have happened had I not been willing to be stripped away and understand what was some of my greatest gifts and my challenges were. So the greatest gift that I was able to step into, number one, is that I could step more into my leader, because a leader needs a team. You can't do it alone. And my administrator was trying to have me do it all alone and was keeping me at this level I couldn't break through. So the fourth pillar is your greatest gift that's in your challenge. And so when you can just, because everyone can say, okay, I'm challenged with something right now. And so I'll show you how to just dig into that and understand what your greatest gift is there, so that when you go into the rest of the book, which is picking your archetypes, and also, or having them pick you, that you're armed with the result of these four pillars for yourself, and you're more clear about, oh, this is where my superpowers are. Now, when I do a Vedic astrology reading for you, a Sacred Wealth Code reading, I tell you exactly which archetypes are yours. But I developed the system because I've been teaching it, and I had that tap on the shoulder that said, write the book, about a year ago. You need to get this out to more people, but do it in a way that, a user-friendly way. So that's the way I set it up.
Perfect. And with that, we have a question. Rich wants to know where to buy your book. And so yeah, we'll allow you to do a shameless plug for your book right now.
Awesome. So you can grab the Sacred Wealth Code, your Sacred Wealth Code. You can grab it right on Amazon. But if you go to my website, it's even a little bit better because you get some goodies along with it. So if you go to, the easiest way to go there is sacredwealthcode.com, and we can probably put that in the chat eventually. Yep. Sacredwealthcode.com will take you to a page where you can grab the book from Amazon, but you can also come back and put your receipt number in, and also get some great gifts from me that go along with it to help you even further. And then also there's a free quiz there if you want to discover what one of your Sacred Wealth Code archetypes is as well. You can take that free quiz and just get right to one of them and start working with it right away.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and I actually took the quiz yesterday, so awesome. that was fun.
Okay, so what did you get, Mark? What was your?
Oh yeah, put me on the spot.
Yeah.
I forget.
Okay, then your job is to come back and tell us what it is, and make sure you tag me when you do. Okay.
I'll leave that in the comments as well.
Yeah. Okay.
It just spaced me off, but I'm trying to remember. But I can see it right on my computer, but I can't remember. So.
Okay, no worries.
So okay, well, great. Yeah, and we'll put your website address down there, and so they can go as well. So if you could share just one big truth with every entrepreneur in the world, what would it be?
Okay. So you are uniquely encoded for wealth. You're uniquely encoded for your purpose. That's within you. I would really, your soul already knows what you're supposed to be doing and who you're supposed to be doing it with, and the mission you're here to serve. Which is your mission, the movement you want to create in the world. And so you want to start to tune out a lot of the information that's coming at you that's not resonant. And how do you know if it's not resonant? Like today, right now, what we're sharing with you, if you're kind of feeling it, if it's like pulling at you and like on your heartstrings a little bit, or there's like, oh yeah, that's true, then dive in. The things that are coming at you, or if this is that you're like, your mind is going, oh yeah, well, I better do that. Well, the marketplace says I have to do that now, and I've got to do this. Well, all of that will distract you. The parts of it that's not yours to do will distract you and keep you from what is yours to do. Everything out there is made up. Every system is made up. You can make your own up, or you can model a system, but is it right for you? And you need to take the time to find that out. So one of the questions you can ask yourself very easily, because I teach this whole tuning in process, is if I really tell myself the truth, is this in alignment with me and my purpose in my business? And if not, tune it out, get yourself off that email list so you can actually focus on what you're here to do and get with it.
Yeah, great. And along that lines, I actually went through a coaching program earlier this year with a gentleman from Washington, a little farther south than Seattle though. But I shared with him, and I'll share with you as well, I can come up with about 100 ideas a second, but I can't hold on to one for two. So, and but he came through and said, one thing, find that one thing and focus on that one thing and work on that one thing. And it comes back to resonating. What resonates with me when I do that? Because I come up with this idea over here. I'm like, okay, before I implement it, before I call my best friends and tell them, let's do it or whatever, it's like, okay, does it resonate with me? Does it help my purpose on where I'm going? And about 90% of my ideas I'm able to throw out now rather than being scattered.
Yeah, really, 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 really important, especially like maybe you have a visionary at work and where you're just an idea person and you've got to, that's the things you have to weigh again. Is this alignment with my purpose? Is it in alignment with, where I've already tuned in, gotten really clear that I'm going now in the short run, and in the long run? And if it's not, then, just give it a place to go, Evernote or somewhere, but not in the file of what I'm working on now, because it's so important, because also the mind will, keep you quite distracted, especially when you're an idea person.
Yeah. Great. Thanks. Appreciate that. And we're about ready to wrap up, but one final question here, which will allow you to do as much as self-promotion as you'd like. But what makes someone a perfect candidate to work with you and the Sacred Wealth Code system?
Yeah. So if you are, first of all, if anything I've said today, you feel that resonance we were just talking about, that alignment, that resonance, just like when you pluck a guitar string and it's like, you can feel it all the way through you, or I've said something that is calling you to take a deeper look at yourself. Okay. So my clients are people who do want to live on purpose, and they want to create a mission and a movement in the world that is purpose driven, and they want to do it from the inside out. They want to, yes, use the myriad of amazing systems in the world, but they want to do it in a way that's unique and true to them. You want to understand what you're so uniquely good at, and you want to be able to really gift the world with that. Those are my clients. I can tell you a lot of things even just by looking at your chart, but I teach my clients to actually how to dig deep and find your answers for yourself, and then I collaborate with you. And also, if you're in the same place and you feel like you're on purpose, I work with a lot of people like this. You feel like you've got it, or you're on purpose, but you're not really, the wealth isn't there. Well, something's off, and we need to clear what's off, and so we can get you fully switched on.
Perfect. Sweet. And I'm assuming they can find all your information at sacredwealthcode.com.
Yeah, sacredwealthcode.com will get you onto my main site of Solutionary, and I have a couple of great programs. My private program is all filled out right now, but I have a business academy that we're enrolling in, and then I also, for entrepreneurs, and I also have what I call my Sacred Wealth Circle, which is a program if you just want to really learn how to connect with, your Sacred Wealth Code, how to use it, and open up to more wealth in your life, and maybe figure out what your purpose is and what you should be doing, then my Sacred Wealth Code Circle is the perfect place for you. And you can find that all there on that page, sacredwealthcode.com.
Perfect. Appreciate that. And again, I'll make sure that's in the comments below. But we know you're busy, so we'll wrap up right now. And we appreciate you being on the show today. And I've learned so much today, and I'm looking forward to going back and editing this. Because I should hire someone to edit my interviews, but I gain so much more when I go back and I really get to listen and dive in. So I'm looking forward to that. And for our audience, I encourage you to come back again next Tuesday at 11 o'clock Mountain Daylight Time. And until next week, to your marketing success.